Hi, welcome to another video on development of a new nixie tube model. My name is Dalibor. I run a small business manufacturing nixie tubes, and in today's video I want to give you an update on what was happening in the past few weeks and months, because there was quite a long gap since the last video. So this is gonna be a purely talking video. I'm not going to do any prototyping, any building, so I hope it won't be a completely boring for you.
Lot numéro 45. This is the Uhrwerk, the space-time blade.
Let's start with introduction of a project we were working on for the past 2.5 years. It's also a project that was taking more than 80% of our time for the past year. So quite a tough and significant development for us. It's a collaborative project with a Swiss brand called Uhrwerk. It's 8-digit vertically positioned nixie clock. And it's not just a nixie clock, it displays a lot of features, like a lot of values related to space. This is what Uhrwerk does with their watches as well. The display itself is created with the redesigned R-tube. We modified it heavily so that we can use not a single line font but a wide mesh style font, which was more difficult than we anticipated. But let's keep this project for another video. It's a very interesting thing. There was a lot of techniques involved, like bronze casting and other stuff, so it deserves its own video. So let's get back to the F nixie tube, just to remind what the new nixie tube model should be. It should be a slightly smaller nixie tube, and the main idea behind it is to adjust the construction of the nixie tube and build a manufacturing background for it, so that we are able to produce the tube more efficiently and focus on better affordability of the tube. I want to keep the manufacturing costs and also the selling cost later as low as possible. When I developed the manufacturing procedures for our current nixie tube model, for the R nixie tube model, I went the way of least complexity. So we have very little machines and we do a lot of work by hand, which takes time, and it translates to quite high costs. And for the F tube, I want to change that. I want to spend more time in development of the machines, and I want them later to pay back and help us reduce the production costs. So my vision for the F tube is to make a high quality, high reliability tube which is available always and affordable. So if you design your own clock, or if you want to make a kit and build something with nixie tubes, there will be no other reasonable solution for you to choose rather than the F tube. Right now, a similar tube is IN-18, which is old stock tube that was produced in the Soviet bloc in 70s or 80s. These tubes will, at some point in the future, they will run out because they are no longer manufactured, or their prices will be very high, and it will make them less attractive. So it would be quite nice to have a new tube which is produced that you can choose and build your project out of it. So this is the future that I see for the F tube. It will be difficult to get there because we will need to develop the manufacturing background that will allow us to make at least 20,000 tubes per year. And we will also have to make them so affordable so that we are able to sell this quantity of nixie tubes, because the highest quantity of tubes that we were able to both sell and make in the past, the R tubes, was around 2,000 tubes per year. So that's the vision where I see the F-tube, and now let's look at the steps that we did in the past few months. Some 6 years ago I got lucky and I had a chance to buy a Silex machine, which is a machine designed for the operation of sealing stem into the envelope. Currently we do this by hand, and this takes roughly 3 minutes per tube. And with this machine it will take roughly 30 seconds to load it. So it's a carousel machine, and it will seal one tube in 30 seconds. This machine was sitting in California, so we imported it from California here, and it's an old machine designed probably before the Second World War by Isler Engineering in New Jersey. There was quite interesting hub of these companies in New Jersey that supported the vacuum tube manufacturing business. We have our pins from New Jersey as well, from the form cut, and also the burners that were referenced in the RC8 document for setting up the stem press machine that I shared in the previous videos. These burners came from New Jersey, from the AGF Burners company, which still exists, and this came from New Jersey as well. So we got the machine here. I stored it in an old barn, and recently as we got a new space in a nearby village, we moved it here together with other stuff. So the machine is now sitting in the warehouse and waiting for someone who will take it, restore it, and then we can redesign the head so they can hold F-tube, they can do the sealing operation and so on. So this machine needs investment and a lot of effort to restore and make it running. But once it is done, we will have a machine that is significantly more productive, and the cost to seal one tube will be much less, which is exactly what we are looking for the F-tube. Another progress is related to materials. I sourced a small sample of a material for the anode plates, which is called P2. And currently we use stainless steel and a black coating for our nixie tubes, which works well, but it takes some time. It's just extra effort to make that black coating. And for the F-tube, I would like to use material that was used in Europe in the 70s, and like keep it historically accurate. I like this material which was used in the past, but the problem is that it's very exotic. It's a material which is like iron sheet covered with a layer of aluminum from both sides. When you work with it, it's silver. And when you mount it into the tube and heat it, either in vacuum or in air, it turns gray because of the reaction between the iron and the aluminum.
What happens, it's a form of catalytic reaction that happens once it hits cherry hot. And it's starting to heat now. And when the reaction really starts running, the temperature actually zips up. And then, as it cools, it comes to that gray color.
It makes the nice dark layer behind the nixie, behind the digits, which improves the readability, the contrast between the glowing digit and the background. So the main advantage of this material, aside from the historical aspect that is important for me but not might be so important for the customers, is that the price is very low. It can be stamped, and once you have all the parts clean, stamped and clean, you can turn them gray in a bulk, like in some basket in vacuum oven. So it's very productive as well. The only problem is that it's very exotic material, and the only supplier I found is in Germany, and the minimum quantity is in tons. So I did just quick calculation, and if we run the production of 20,000 tubes per year, then the minimum quantity would last us at least 2 years, which is quite a long time. So that's also, you can also see how important is to have some scale, because if you run some small scale production, you can't even have this material, because, or you can have it, but you would probably trash like 90% of it. So that was the engineering side of the development of the F-tube. And if we want to succeed in bringing this to the market, we have to make sure that we have robust enough business model of our existing tube, because this is the source of income we are funding the development from, the production of the R-tube and the clocks that we make using the R-tube. And currently we live in challenging times, especially inflation of the raw materials and the complications of the things that used to work in the past, and now you have to deal 3 times as much time to the same things, like shipping, for instance, or suppliers who had trained people to do quality inspection on the parts that we buy from them, and they had to shrink the team. Suddenly the people are not there, so the quality inspection is not as used to be, so we have to reorder parts because we reject them, and so on. There is not a single serious problem, but all the challenge is formed by the multiple small issues going on together. I have here just some examples. Let's say the material costs. So the tungsten wire that we use for the seals on the stem for the R-tube went from $550 per kilogram to $850 per kilogram. So that's something like 60% price increase in 1 year, which is crazy. So the price of this tungsten wire is quite high. It's the highest quality tungsten that we could find for the seals. The surface is very smooth and polished, cleaned, which is important for a good quality seal. The second highest quality wire comes from Asia. This one comes from United States. The other one comes from Asia, and it's 10 times less expensive, but it's not as smooth. It's almost good, but it's not as smooth, which makes the rejection rate on the seals due to leakage a little bit higher. So I prefer to use the higher quality wire despite the high price, because it makes the product better. In our country, in Czech Republic, the inflation in 2 years was roughly 30%. So last year we got price increase for the rent here at the castle up by 19%. Another 15% are waiting next year, because we get the price increase by the inflation every 2 years. So something like over 30% up just on the rent. And electricity went up by some 200%. We used to pay something like 2,500 euros per year. Now we pay around 7,000 per year. So all these little problems that were going on simultaneously caused that in 2022 we had costs higher a little bit than the revenue, which made our cash at hand shrinking. And so we had to find ways how to turn it back. Here is the metrics that I use to keep track of the financial things, and it's called DTD, days to death, and it's measured in days. And what it means is how much days left we have with the cash that we currently have at hand. We have no debts, no investors, no loans, so everything we have to finance, we have to earn for by selling our clocks. So thank you very much to all our customers who keep purchasing the clocks. So when you look at this chart, on the x-axis we have dates. So this chart is for 2 years, from 2019 to the end of 2021. On the y-axis we have days. And you can see quite smooth chart. Somewhere here in the second half you see that it's going upwards. This is where the COVID striked, and the customers were staying at home and making their homes nicer, so they were more willing to buy a clock, so our cash went up. And 1 year later, you see this right down. So this is the place where all the costs, everything started to go up, and during 1 year it exhausted completely our cash reserve. So during this time, of course, we try to twist it so it goes our way. So we tried several things. We tried to find some places where we can save money, of course, so like excess electricity use or waste of parts in production and so on. And in the end, we found that we are spending more money in time trying to search for these savings. We save nothing this way, or very little. So this was not a good way. Another thing that we tried was to buy materials and parts in bulk, in quantity, trying to negotiate better price and also achieving better prices, like only one shipment and less time spent by figuring out how to ship it and everything this. Like if you buy 3 small packages, it's better to buy 1 big. So the problem here was that we were buying parts for a year or 2 ahead, so it cost a lot of money, so it even worsened the situation with the cash flow. We achieved some savings, but the cash flow problems were even worse. Then we decided to give up 30% of the space here at the castle, and because we still needed space, we rented a nearby warehouse, which was the same cost, but we got much more space for it. We also needed it for the big lathe and other stuff for the project for Urwerk. So again, like we got more space for the same money, but like no savings. So this was again not very successful way how to deal with the costs. So next was the electricity cost. So we built a 20 kilowatt power solar plant, not here at the castle, so we cannot use the electricity directly. But next month there will be a change in the law which will allow us to consume the electricity that is produced at this solar plant, to consume it here at the castle for just the cost of the electricity distribution. So I'm looking forward to know the conditions, and this will save us like a couple of thousand euros per year, but it will be a long run. We still need to set up the processes and find how to synchronize the production and the consumption and so on. So quite complicated thing for just a couple of thousand euro savings, but it's worth it, and it's really a fun project. So searching for ways to save costs was not very successful, so we thought, like, what if we try to get more sales? I mentioned that we had slightly lower, like maybe 10-20% lower income revenue than the year before. So we tried a couple of paid campaigns on Facebook and other online platforms for our clocks, but that was also not successful. It was very expensive to set up. I was surprised how much development there goes for setting up the tracking and other stuff. And I don't like the idea of spending the customers' money on some online campaigns. I would rather invest this into the product, and it's much slower, the organic growth, that when the customer is satisfied, he recommends us to other customers. So this is the preferred way how I want to spend money and increase the sales, rather than some crazy marketing campaigns on the internet. So this was also not the way how to boost sales. So another option was to take on custom projects, because there are from time to time customers asking us to make custom projects, and usually there's no time for this, so it never happens. One of these projects was the relay for the flux capacitor replica build. I shared this a year ago. The idea was to build a series of these vacuum tube relays for a customer in France who makes the replica flux capacitors from the Back to the Future movie, like the props. First, this seemed to be a good idea because it was already a series run, so the cost to develop this tube would be covered in this series, but in the end it turned out that it needs way more development than I thought at the beginning, and at half of the project I had to cancel it, return the money to the customer, and we ended up with all this time and a lot of custom glass and everything, so that created another cost, and we had another project like this. So this was a couple of fuck-ups. So these were two projects that end up with another loss. For us, we return like all the payments to customers. So I didn't find good ways how to reduce the costs and boost the sales in 2022. So we had to close some jobs. We started the year with 8 full-time jobs and ended with 5. So three colleagues less, which is sad. Not so sad because only one of them had to be laid off, and one of them found another job, and another one went to maternity leave, so even some good news. So we started 2023 with 5 people, and the conditions improved almost instantly. And when we look back at the days to death graph, we see that within a year or so, our cash reserve climbed back to the normal levels where it was before. So after 1 year where we were in light red numbers, we are profitable again. The price for this is that it's more time, like sometimes weekends, sometimes evenings, but that's fair, that's okay. And we need to find a way how to make it sustainable in long term again, and how to make more time for the development of the F-tube. So for the near future, we will need to make a step back, and from producing one complex product, which is the Puri clock, the full nixie clock, we will step back to production of only nixie tubes. We'll focus on nixie tubes only, so we will save some time of the firmware development, hardware development, sourcing the parts, and assembly and all these things. And this save time we can invest into development of the F-tube. So what this means for our customers, in few months the Puri clocks will be sold out, so they will not be available anymore. Maybe they will return one day as a redesigned product, we'll see. That's one thing. Another thing, we will add individual nixie tubes back to our website for sale, so we will be able to buy even like one nixie tube or a set of 4, a set of 6, including column tubes. So we'll be selling the sets with column tubes, so 6 tubes plus 2 column tubes, or 4 nixie tubes plus 1 column tube as a set for the clocks. Right now we don't have many nixie tubes in stock, so there will be only a couple of sets available, but I believe that in 2 or 3 months we will catch up, and the stock will be permanently available. The R-tube production is now stuck at me because one of these 3 people leaving was a glass blower, so I got back a half-time job of glass blowing, and it's quite a challenge to find so much time for glass blowing. But I must say I was first worried of doing so much work again. In some way it's soothing to see the work being done. You start, and in 1.5 hours you have 20 stems made. They are nice, they can be used in nixie tubes, and it sometimes, or it usually doesn't happen when you solve problems with firmware or something that you spend hours and hours and you don't have the solution. Here you immediately see some work done, and you can say like good job for it, so that's good. Okay, it's long anyway, so thank you very much for watching, and I hope to bring a video of progress on the F-Tube sooner than it was with this update video. So thank you and bye.